great man once said, you may have heard of him, his name is Batman, Bruce Wayne, I need to become more than just a man. I need to become a symbol. Hello once again, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Jonathan Clarke, and I am really excited about the upcoming release of LEGO Batman Legacy of the Dark Knight this coming Friday. And I just sacrificed 103, oh my god, 103.49 for LEGO Batman Legacy of the Dark Knight. I talk about how many fans of Descendants of Zombies we have, and how you should never ever be afraid to let the world know how you truly feel about something as powerful as Descendants of Zombies and influential. And I've always been a fan of Batman. So, because I've always been a fan of Batman, I've never been afraid to let everybody know how big of a fan of Batman I actually was. I've purchased every Batman video game that has ever been created, all this authentic Batman merchandise, and I've seen just about every Batman movie since 1988. And that's a long time ago. That's a long time to be a fan of something. So if you feel very passionate about Descendants of Zombies, you want to be a fan of Descendants of Zombies for the rest of your life, I'm here to tell you that there's nothing wrong with that. There has never been anything wrong with being a fan of Descendants of Zombies. You remember the date that Descendants became a part of your life, July 31st, 2015. On that night, where were you when Descendants first premiered on Disney Channel at 7 p.m.? I was sitting at home, pretty much looking up at the ceiling, thinking my life was a disaster, and then Descendants of Zombies, my life pretty much sucked, and then Descendants of Zombies kind of just happened, and I was like, what was this? I had seen the initial promos leading up to the premiere of Descendants, and it would go on to hold a very special place in my heart. And then many years later, I wanted to create something special, and I wanted to be a part of something special. And you guys allowed me the opportunity to become a part of something special that would hold a very special place in my heart. I never really had a whole lot going on for me. I never really had a whole lot happening. I had been a pro wrestling podcast host for a number of years. I've been a pro wrestling podcast host for pretty much my very existence until Descendants of Zombies kind of just happened for me. And I wanted more than anything in my life to showcase my passion for being a Disney fan, because simply I was more of a Disney fan than I ever was a wrestling fan. And I know that's a really weird transition to kind of make from pro wrestling into Disney, but I always loved the girls on Disney Channel, and I had so much respect for them. And I always never shied away from sharing my opinion on people such as Kylie Cantrell, because I thought their empowerment and their empowerment era, this really coming of age era that they were embarking on, this really huge journey that they were heading out on, was something I wanted to be a part of, because I knew the struggles and I knew the pressure that they were under, because I've been involved heavily with this industry and different aspects of it for a number of years, and I wanted to let them know that their contributions to franchises such as Descendants of Zombies would never ever be forgotten. If you are a diehard fan of people like Kylie Cantrell and Dove Cameron, you've obviously heard the stories of how much pressure they were under and how much pressure they were faced with. And I wanted to take that away. And I could have never done it without your guys' help. I know I've always had this emotional connection with every fan of Descendants of Zombies, but who could really blame me? I've always had this emotional connection with fans of Descendants of Zombies because of how acceptant they were of me. I was pretty much a loser who pretty much was wandering through the forests of Ordon, and I came upon Ordon Prep and Merlin Academy. And I've always wanted to be a professor of Descendants of Zombies. I've always wanted to be a Descendants analyst. And then people started referring to me as a Descendants analyst. And I, held on to that moniker for a very long time. People have recognized me as one of the most recognizable voices, come to recognize me as one of the most recognizable voices ever in the history of Descendants of Zombies. I feel like I've been a part of every generation of Disney, so I can often reflect on what the generations of Disney have meant to us. There have been a total of 7 generations of Disney and filmmaking that all began back in the 1930s. In the lateral part of the 1930s, we embarked on an incredible journey. It was called Disney's Golden Era. And then we went from that to Disney's Silver Era, where stories like Alice in Wonderland and Cinderella became a very valued part of our very existences and a part of our story. Because Cinderella has often been reflected upon as the most revered Disney classic of all time, one of the most celebrated Disney princesses ever. Everybody wanted to be just like her because of what her story represented. A chance of somebody finding true love, falling in love with Mr. Right, and staying in love with Mr. Right for forever. And while that may never happen for a whole lot of people early in life, eventually it happens for everybody. And I've never ever wanted anybody to quit on that. And I think that Cinderella's story was the exemplification and personification of what can really happen for people when they believe in themselves. I think Alice in Wonderland's story, which became a part of our lives back in the early 1950s, was an exemplification of just how much further kindness can really take a person, and how sometimes our curiosity can sometimes get the better of us. Alice was never the only one who just wanted to take the chance of jumping down through a rabbit hole. Because to be honest with you guys, if I found a rabbit hole in my backyard, which I've seriously been convinced that there is one in my backyard, I've just never found it yet. If I had the chance to jump down through a rabbit hole, I would take myself on the opportunity. I'd be like, Geronimo, see you guys later. And then I would come back. I'd probably host my show from Wonderland. And that would be the coolest thing ever if I could broadcast my YouTube channel live from Wonderland. Just imagine Jonathan Clarke reporting live from Wonderland. That would be so cool. Then for sure, I would go down in history for being everybody's favorite Descendants character, man. That would be so cool. Freaking awesome. If I could be everybody's favorite Descendants character. Because there's some value in being a character that everybody loves. I've seen how much people love Malachi Burton, and how much people have loved Milo Manheim, and how much people have loved Kylie, and I've just really wanted to be a character just like that would offer somebody so much incentive and inspiration to just keep on going and keep on moving forward. Because when you can offer somebody that, you've truly offered somebody something special. And I've had the chance to be a part of so many special moments. The passing of Cameron Boyce, which had a profound impact on a lot of people's hearts. I know Dove Cameron and Sophia Carson were really taken back. I think the majority of Descendants fans, at least 95 to 97% of us, were taken back with so many fond memories of Cameron Boyce. We remembered him on the show Jesse, where he really got a start, and then from Jesse to Bunked, and then from Bunked to Descendants, and he really did a phenomenal job bringing the character Carlos to life, for just Carlos's appreciation for, no matter how much his mother wanted him to go on to become something far greater, he went on to become something that he wanted to become through his kindness. And in every moment that he had the chance to be a part of, he exemplified appreciation for those moments that he got to share with all of you. I've never really been fond of a lot of guys on Disney Channel because of their approach, I guess is the way to describe it, because sometimes their approach was really unethical. But his approach was very different. And the thing about Cameron Boyce that I admired so much was that he just had this appreciation for you guys, and he just wanted to be a part of your story. And through allowing him to be a part of your story, you guys always took something special away from him. I don't think there was ever a moment that I never saw Cameron Boyce wanting to have fun, because he really did have a whole lot of fun with all of you, and he really appreciated the moments that he had with all of you. And I think that's what his legacy will forever and always be solidified for, and always remembered and never ever forgotten. And I've always given you my word that as long as I have a heartbeat, Cameron Boyce's legacy will live on eternally through the memories I share with you on this YouTube channel. I will never forget the day that he passed away. It was July 6, 2019. Our worlds were turned upside down. Kind of like how Red's world is going to be turned upside down in Wicked Wonderland, but in a very different way, if I could use that comparison. Our worlds were really turned upside down, and we didn't know quite what to make of the situation that was kind of unfolding at the time, and I really wish that I could have been here for more Descendants and Zombies fans to really help them make sense of what was happening, because oftentimes, things happen that we can't really explain. But I think that God always had a greater plan for Cameron Boyce. He may have never been here for a long time. He was here for a good time. And we appreciated the time that we had with him. And we will never, ever forget him. I think more people should take the time to really understand what Cameron Boyce meant to this life and what he meant to everybody. And I think that if more people could take the time to really understand what he meant to everybody, I think a greater appreciation could be taken away from his legacy and what it's truly meant to everybody. Because no matter who we are, we all have a favorite character who may have been Red, who may have been Mal, who may have been Evie, who may have been Chloe. We can just keep on going about who our favorite characters are that brought us to these definitive moments that made us fans of Descendants of Zombies, or whatever we may have been a fan of. I just spoke on how I was always a fan of Batman, and how he wanted to become more than a man. He wanted to become a symbol. He was always one of my favorite superheroes. There was never really anything special about Batman. I think it was his sarcasm and just how he used technology. He was a detective. He never had X-ray vision. He could never breathe fire or breathe ice, is what I'm trying to think of, like Superman. And there was never really anything that really made Batman stand out, only just how he just wanted to save Gotham from destruction. So Batman was always one of my favorite superheroes, and I bought a lot of Batman merchandise. And a lot of my friends who I hosted podcasts with years ago used to buy a lot of Batman merch too. Because no matter how old you get, your favorite superheroes, your favorite princesses, and their stories stay with you for forever. And I know how people feel about Disney princesses. People obviously feel very different. There are people who can't stand the stories of Disney princesses and have never wanted anything to do with them. I know that Rachel Zegler received a lot of criticism for her role as Snow White because she really believed that she should be paid more to really dress up as a Disney princess. If she's being, dressing up as a Disney princess, she was quoted in saying that if she was dressing up as a Disney princess, should be paid for every moment that she was dressing up as a Disney princess. And then I think of all these characters that were brought to light by people like Emma Watson and Lily May when they played characters like Cinderella and Belle from Beauty and the Beast live actions. And just how appreciative they were, even Haley Bailey as Ariel, the live-action Ariel, even with how much criticism she received, she was so appreciative of these moments that made moments stand out. And I really think that there are people, even though they've received criticism, you can't help but love how Disney princesses, either animated or live-action adaptations, have been brought to life in so many emphatic ways. I know more often than enough there are people who really don't appreciate bringing Disney princesses and their stories to life. But I really believe that Kylie Cantrell's adaptation of Red may have been a very different VK and may have had a very different story, and the way it was told was obviously very different. But we're going to see a lot happen for her in Descendants 5, developing a love interest, having her own ballad, which is really going to give her the chance to reintroduce herself to us. I don't know what the name of the ballad is currently, but there's also a rumor that Red and Chloe are going to have their own definitive ballad too, their own definitive duet. I also don't know what the name of it is. The only two songs that I know are going to be a part of the soundtrack is going to be Dancing with the Enemy or Perfect Princess. And because these are the only two that we know right now, it leaves the door more widely open than ever before to have beautiful music kind of introduced to this franchise. Because if you remember back to the original Descendants scores, the music never got better to the second Descendants until Descendants 2 premiered in July of 2017. So because Descendants 2 premiered in July of 2017, the music had gotten better. We had a 2-year gap in between the releases. And by Descendants 2, the music really stood out because you had songs like Ways to Be Wicked. You had songs like Space Between. And those songs really took Descendants to places it had never been before. So if Descendants: The Rise of Red's story follows along the same trend and along the same path, the music is only going to get better. I mean, you can never deny the song Perfect Princess was a really catchy song. It was one of the catchiest songs that we had ever heard or ever had the chance to be a part of. And I really believe that this is going to be a way for Pink to really leave behind a legacy. It's really going to have a chance for Pink to really take over. And this is something I really wanted to see happen for her. I really believe that we could be setting up for a passing of the torch moment. So because we are setting up for a passing of the torch moment, this is really going to be something special because it's all about securing the future of your favorite Descendants of Zombie stars. And we are all going to have the chance to experience it. You know, people could choose to criticize new characters played by Keanu Romero and Leah Money as much as they want, but they are really beautiful people. And they are really appreciative of these moments, kind of like how I've always been appreciative of the moments that I get to share with you along with all the stories. Because you could just choose to sit here and tell a story, but it's all about how you tell that story that the girl watching your video sees the appreciation coming from. And if you can understand how that girl feels who's watching your video who loves Descendants of Zombies with all of your heart, you really won over something special. And I've always wanted to have that be a constant. I've always wanted to give people watching these videos hope at just 5:01 in the evening. And you're saying to yourself, hey, Jonathan Clarke, man, you really do make really nice videos about Descendants of Zombies. Thank you so much. I will admit to you guys that I've received my fair share of criticism for being so loyal to Descendants of Zombies. I know I've had a very different approach to it, and I've told the stories of these characters very differently, and I've seen them very differently. But again, that's what makes every video that I've created, which is amassed to over 1,000 videos, which is a lot of videos. You're saying to yourself, God, Jonathan, that's like a bajillion videos you've created about Descendants of Zombies. Jeez. I know, but I think that every single time that you create a video about Descendants of Zombies, you can obviously tell these stories differently, which is something I've emphatically done. I know there are people who believe that I say the same thing over and over again, and I must sound like a broken record, and I've often apologized for that. But if you notice how I tell these stories about being a part of eras like the Renaissance era and the Silver era, the thing is, every single time that I record a video about Descendants of Zombies, if you listen and pay very close attention, I always have a way of telling this story differently. And these conversations have obviously been something I've looked forward to and I've obviously cherished for a very long time, and I've just loved having a chance to be a part of your story, which is something you guys allowed me the chance to do. I always wanted to be everybody's favorite action hero or just simply a hero, and I had the chance to be that. I always wanted to have my own video game or my own teddy bear for Descendants of Zombies merch lines, have my own website, jonathanclarke.com, where people could buy my Descendants of Zombies merch from. I often thought that would be really cool because I had something to do with website development years ago, and hopefully we'll launch jonathanclarke.com eventually and people will be able to buy my exclusive Descendants of Zombies merch if in fact Disney will allow me to either be a producer, a creative writer, or an actor in Descendants, having the chance to bring everybody's favorite character and their story to life. Because when you can bring a character and their story to life, you've really got something special to be appreciative of, and that is something these stars have had the chance to do, and this is exactly what I wanted to have happen for them. So as a result of having everything happening for them the way it has, I think we really have something special to hold on to. What we are looking at for a release window now for Descendants Flybook Wonderland should happen between July 12th through the 19th. It will kick off with a premiere on Disney Channel like they always do, and then the following night we'll see a global premiere on Disney Plus, and I think I'm going to watch it on Disney Plus at my own convenience because that is when I will be able to give you some of the best reviews and have the chance to watch it over 1,000 times. Because when I tell you I watched the franchise, a chapter of it, The Rise of Red, 1,000 times, oh, I really have, if not 1,001 times. Because every single time that you watch it, it feels like you're watching it for the first time. The first time you hear a song like Life is Sweeter When You Were, it really feels like you're listening to it for the first time. And that's what's made being a part of these franchises for people like me who were pretty much a loser before the fandom of Descendants of Zombies became a part of my life. When you guys came into my life, you gave me a chance to be heard and seen by more people than ever before. You do know that, right? And because you gave me a chance to be seen and heard by more people than ever before, as big of a loser I may be for being passionate about video games and thinking pro wrestling was real and loving Disney with all of my heart, you guys accepted me into this niche. And because you accepted me into this niche, you allowed me to be a part of your world and a part of your story. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having made this your favorite Descendants of Zombies YouTube channel, and thank you so much from my heart to yours for always having watched these videos. So what do you say we run it back and we look ahead to the Worlds Collide Tour Leg 2 premiering this fall, the premieres of Descendants 5, Book of Wonderland, and Zombies 5 coming up in 2027, and we make people feel so proud to be fans of Descendants of Zombies more than ever before. Because for them, it's Descendants of Zombies or die, or to stay calm and zombie on, which is something I've often encouraged. And I've had the time of my life. Good evening to all of you. Have a wonderful evening. We will pick up this conversation tomorrow morning between 8:35 and 9:05 a.m. And there's probably somebody out there saying, hey, Jonathan Clarke, that is really early. Geez, I'm not even awake at 9:05 a.m. in the morning. Well, if you're not awake at 9:05 a.m. in the morning, at least you know you can depend on great videos to pop up here in the archives, and you can watch them whenever you want at your earliest convenience. Thank you so much for allowing me the chance to be a part of your story and a part of your worlds. Thank you so much for always and ever for having watched these videos from my heart to yours, because it's forever and always been my honor. Thank you so much for always having watched these videos.